There are good podcasts. There are bad podcasts. Then you have the pickled punks. A cat.
A cat. A Cheshire cat.
Not a Cheshire cat. It's Schrodinger's cat.
Explain, James.
Well, Schrodinger was dealing with quantum mechanics, and he was trying to come up with an explanation of, excuse me, I really am sick, how it interacts.
Got a cat in your throat?
The way that they covered it in the movie and the way most people look at it is actually wrong. At the time, the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics said that every object in a system exists in all possible configurations. And when it is observed, it is forced to collapse down into any one of those possible configurations. So if you've got something happening unobserved, then it exists in all possible ways that it could exist. If there different events could have occurred, then all of those exist at the same time. But once you look at it and you observe it, you force it into one state. The Schrodinger's cat was a thought experiment he put together where he had a cat in a box with a hammer over some poison hooked up to a Geiger counter and a very small amount of radiation. And if the Geiger counter detected the radiation, the hammer would break the poison and kill the cat. If it didn't detect the radiation, then it wouldn't kill the cat. And he was using that as an interpretation, saying that until you open up the door, the cat is both alive and dead because it could exist in either condition. But once you open up the door, it forces it to conform to one of the two conditions. His idea was to show that the interpretation of all objects existing in all possible configurations was actually wrong. He was saying that it was ridiculous that a cat could be both alive and dead. But a lot of people interpret it as saying that that was his way of explaining the validity of the process. So he actually disagreed that everything existed in all possible states. But the Copenhagen interpretation is that everything exists in every possible condition until you actually look at it, and then it's forced into one. And that's kind of what this movie is all about.
Was it a black cat or like a tabby? Or?
I believe it was a Cheshire. So the movie is about all possible configurations and the comet coming through and it releasing all of the possible configurations are all existing at the same time.
So the idea is they're in the box until the comet passes over, and then that's like lifting off the box and they're forced to conform?
Well, it's in that, and it would assume that based off of that this one particular system of the house with the people in it is just one of all of the different events that are going on because of the comet. You would think that every house, if they're narrowing each system down to a house, every house on the planet would be going through the same thing, where now, instead of existing in one set quantum state, all possible quantum states are existing together. They're no longer separated from each other. They're interacting, and once the comet goes away, everything collapses down to each one of those possible quantum states being its own little path.
Gotcha. So not like an objective reality, but just all of the states still existing at the same time.
Right. So like you're walking down the street, and you could turn left or you could turn right. You turn left, there's now a quantum possibility of you turning left, a quantum possibility of you turning right. You go to make another turn, and now there's 4 different quantum possibilities. Every time you make a decision, another possibility exists in another possible state. And in the movie, the comet makes all of those possible states exist together, and everybody goes crazy.
And they can interact.
And they're all interacting. So when it all collapses down, the me that turned left would be in the world of the me that turned right. And maybe when I turned left, I bought an ice cream. Maybe when I turned right, I had explosive diarrhea. And then someone would be talking about that time I had explosive diarrhea, and I'd be like, the fuck are you talking about? I had ice cream. So it just ruined everything.
It's left and right.
That's the biggest problem, is discerning the questions on explosive diarrhea to ice cream.
Obviously, that's a small, but
right.
And they talked about the other comet and the people that were forgetting things and going to the wrong houses
in history,
and the historical comet, when they were talking in their little dinner party, and she was talking about the woman who said, "This can't be my husband because I killed my husband yesterday. Well, yesterday in her reality, she probably killed her husband, but then that particular comet mixed up the realities again, and she ended up in a reality where she hadn't killed her husband. That's a slightly more complicated result than whether or not you had ice cream or diarrhea, but it's the same basic thing.
Does everyone feel
Yeah, it makes
informed?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah?
No problem.
Are you being sarcastic? Or
Yes.
Okay. It makes sense. I mean, I don't know how realistic it is. It makes sense. I don't, I conceptualize the idea of it. I don't, it'd be difficult for me to be in that situation. And I think that, like, I can't say that that's an actual possibility.
You can't say that that's an actual possibility?
I can't say it.
Can you deny that it's an actual possibility?
Could it be possible that you're denying that it's real?
I could say, I mean, it could happen. It's not saying it couldn't happen, but
Well, it's a result of quantum physics and quantum mechanics not obeying the regular physical laws that were established. And there's actually a lot going on right now where they're trying to reinterpret things. It's kind of the reason why people talk about dark matter in the universe, is because things don't necessarily move the way they thought they would based off of like Isaac Newton's theories and Einstein's theories. It works really well in a lot of situations, but there's a few situations where it doesn't. So now they're trying to come up with theories that encompass all of that. It may be that Einstein was wrong. In fact, there's a more recent thing about gravity not being interpreted correctly, that it being more of a like a waveform rather than like a physical constant. Yeah, anyways, that has nothing to do with the movie.
all right. Well, that's the Cheshire Cat.
Quantum entanglement.
Yes. Which is actually completely different. I threw that word out there because it was used in the movie, but quantum entanglement is when two items share a state, no matter the distance between them. The Chinese are trying to work on a way to do communication using that.
Well, I guess maybe they're loosely suggesting that two people could populate the same reality.
No.
Not the exact same vertex, but like maybe just like a different reality.
Well, the quantum entanglement thing is basically, let's say you have something that can be in two states, on or off, based off of like a charge of an atom or something. And you have two atoms that are entangled with each other, so that if atom number one is on, then the atom number two is off, and vice versa. Now, once those two are quantumly entangled, then in theory you can take one atom, move it to the other side of the known universe, and turn the other atom on, and that atom will turn on, and turn the other atom off, and that will turn off. The problem with it being,
how do you spend your time, man? Like
this is all mainstream stuff here. I don't know.
Mainstream stuff. We're hanging out in
The
different
problem with it being
mainstream
is
circles.
that you can't actually influence the system. You can only observe it. So if you try to influence the system by switching one or the other off, it'll break the entanglement. But when one naturally goes to an on state, the other one will naturally go to an on state.
Adoy.
Yeah, come on. This is high school shit.
Basic shit.
But again, this has nothing to do with the movie.
Okay. Well,